Coming up in this half hour, we're going to be talking politics. The candidates have walked into that buzzsaw called the New York Press Corps, and we're going to be talking about their effect on the campaign and the candidates.
Okay, we'll see what the press has to say, try to defend ourselves. But first, let's look at what the press is doing today, covering the news on this Sunday morning. There are political stories, developments, new questions this morning for Bill Clinton about his draft status during the Vietnam War. Clinton's campaign people are acknowledging that he did receive a draft induction notice back in 1969. That's before he joined the ROTC at the University of Arkansas, something he never mentioned when questions were raised earlier. This morning, he met reporters outside his hotel in New York, where he's campaigning for Tuesday's primary, and he denied any impropriety was involved.
This whole issue has basically never come up. The draft board has always said they handle my case in the same way they handle everybody else's. And I honestly never even thought about it until I was asked this question. It just never occurred to me to make anything of it one way or the other, since it was a routine happening.
And a massive pro-choice rally is being held today in Washington, D.C. Anti-abortion demonstrators are out in force, too. Robin Lloyd reports.
Washington's Union Station, a warm-up pep rally for today's march on the Capitol. Abortion rights activists have come from all over the country, tens of thousands. But leaders of the pro-choice movement admit they're on the defensive.
We are losing in the courts, but we're going to win at the polls. Pro-choice America is going to vote and be more politically active than it has ever been in history.
Much has changed since pro-choice supporters marched on the Capitol 3 years ago. Most polls still show that a majority of Americans support legalized abortion. But a more conservative Supreme Court now seems poised to reverse that right. And pro-life activists on the ground are using tougher tactics. Already there have been counter-demonstrations. Police have arrested anti-abortion protesters who tried to block the entrance to an abortion clinic. Today's march is not likely to sway the Supreme Court justices' opinions on abortion rights. But leaders of the pro-choice movement hope a big turnout here will affect how politicians view this increasingly volatile issue. Robin Lloyd, NBC News, Washington.
Overseas now, the Sunday Times of London reports that Nelson and Winnie Mandela are separating. The alleged split comes amid new reports of Mrs. Mandela's involvement in violent episodes in South Africa. Those allegations include beatings, kidnappings, murders, and reported assassination plots against other figures in the African National Congress. Well, this must be the political season. We have a campaign here, an election on Thursday in Great Britain. Italian voters began casting their ballots today in the vote for Parliament. At stake is the survival of a four-party coalition led by the Christian Democrats. Margaret Larson has the report.
It's a colorful campaign with a far-flung cast of characters, including the fascist dictator Mussolini's granddaughter and the prime minister's son-in-law. Porn star Cicciolina dropped out but left the party of love in the hands of a rights colleague named Moana. In all, nearly 250 parties are on the ballot, a mind-bending array of special interest groups from housewives to fast-lane drivers.
I don't understand anything. There are too many parties.
You know, ruling Italy is not difficult. It is useless.
Now, the communists are fractured. The dominant Christian Democrats and their seven-time prime minister ineffective. In northern Italy, there is a strong demand for change. A powerful coalition leader argues the productive North shouldn't have to support the mafia-dominated South. People do want reform. They're tired of rampant corruption, colossal national debt, and basic services among the worst in Europe. But they hardly agree on how or if it's possible. And so the voting is unlikely to produce any major upheaval. The Italians will carry on as they always have, despite their government. Margaret Larson, NBC News, Rome.
And that's the news. A look at the news on this Sunday morning up to this hour, except for the news called weather.
That's right, Al Roker is far afield this morning out on New York's harbor for the Multiple Sclerosis Walkathon. Good morning, Al.
Oh, good. Mary Alice, we're working out, getting ready. They're warming up here, the folks from Plus One Fitness. Plus, we got celebrities Jimmy Matteo from Doogie Howser and Rebecca Arthur from Perfect Strangers and Troy Bayer from A Different World. And they're all getting ready to walk. So I know the forecast for them are a lot of sore feet after they walk their 12 miles for multiple sclerosis, but they'll have warm hearts. Let's take a look at the week ahead. Here's how it shapes up as far as your precipitation or temperatures are concerned. It's going to be chilly for the week ahead for the northern third of the country, mild throughout much of the U.S., warm down south. Precipitation, well, here's how we shape up. We are looking at, again, a normal condition in the northeast, very wet down south, dry in the southwest, normal in the northwest, some wet weather in the plains. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods. We're expecting a high today of 57 degrees in the nation's capital, plenty of sunshine. Heavy thunderstorms down in Texas, flash flood watches for there and parts of the southeast. We're also looking for sunshine out west. Okay, here we go. I expect you guys to be working out later, too. We'll have more a little bit later.
Just keep it up for 20 or 30 minutes, Al. That's the minimum you have to do. Next, we're going to look at the presidential campaign. There is one underway, as if you hadn't noticed. And one of the interesting aspects of it is that every politician running wants to be seen as a non-politician. Examples coming up.
It's about a country that serves its people, all of them. So let's say, we the people. We the people. We the people. Thank you.
When you've got something precious to carry, this is one way to do it. Here's another. Chevy Lumina Euro Sedan. Engineered with four-wheel independent suspension and standard anti-lock brakes. It's one way to help make sure your precious cargo is delivered safely. Chevrolet, the cars more people depend on. And now it's easy to win with the heartbeat. The GE 2800 dishwasher. It does almost everything but clear the table.
GE, we bring good things to life.
For millions of Americans, mowing the lawn can be a real chore. Fortunately, Honda's created the new hydrostatic transmission lawnmower, the first mower that lets you choose whatever speed you need smoothly, no matter what you're cutting around. Look into the new hydrostatic transmission lawnmowers at your Honda dealer. They let you mow without the stop and go.
Honda Power Products for sale at Des Moines Rental, 4711 University.
Mama Lacona's, Italian-American food at its finest. Now with 3 locations. Army Post Road, Beaverdale, and in Clive at 1800 Northwest 86. Whether you're dining in our spacious dining room, meeting in our banquet room, or relaxing over drinks in our beautiful lounge and bar, you'll find this service quick. And the food, well, Mama is famous for her traditional sauces and freshly baked rolls. Join us for lunch, dinner, drinks, or carry-out at Mama Lacona's, the Old Orchard Shopping Center on 86th in Clive.
Like it or not, ready or not, there is a presidential primary campaign underway. We know the charges and the counter-charges, the sound bites and all of these. The study of character issues goes on ad infinitum, if not ad nauseum. There's also the distrust and the alienation between the people and government in Washington, D.C. All of this is happening at the same time, and we want to talk about it in this segment of our program this morning. In fact, nothing seems to shock or surprise anymore. And here is what some non-political politicians have been trying to do.
I'm the senior Republican on this committee. And with all due respect to my colleague who's the chairman of this committee, he didn't send this to me first.
Let us begin not on the campaign trail, but in Congress. There, this past week, a House subcommittee held a hearing. Nothing political, the majority Democrats said as they arranged empty chairs for White House officials who declined to testify. Nothing political as they criticized the White House perks from limousines to Air Force One. Democrat Jim Moran.
You know, this is the president's travel, and we put a yellow marker through all of these trips. Look at these pages. The majority are political fundraising trips that the taxpayer is paying for.
Well, maybe there was something a little bit political happening here. The lone Republican, Dan Burton, thought so.
It's no secret that many members are just scared to death they're going to lose their seats over the banking scandal.
Finally, the chairman, Democrat Paul Konjorsky, who called the hearing in the first place, denied he had any political motive.
Refrain from the political back and forth. I don't think it's going to serve this committee. I don't think it serves the American people.
And the American people seem to agree. That is why many are listening to what this man is saying.
And don't be manipulated by the lie-a-day, the $1,000 donor obscene, massive campaign war chest.
And this man.
If you were elected, what would you do?
We are bleeding arterially right now. So when you bring the patient into the emergency room that's bleeding arterially, you got to stop the bleeding.
At first, it seemed almost like a joke. Jerry Brown running on $100 contributions. H. Ross Perot offering to spend $100 million of his wealth to get elected president. Has money lost all meaning in politics? Well, what has been lost is public interest, or at least participation.
Folks, say hello to Governor Clinton.
Look who has not been in primaries so far. After New Hampshire, the voter turnout was downhill. And these percentages are even lower, substantially lower, than 4 years ago. Which brings us back to Jerry Brown and Ross Perot. What does their success in winning support mean? It means you can be born again as a politician. For H. Ross Perot, it means his political birth will have to be induced through massive petition drives. Is he serious about it?
Anybody intelligent enough to do this job wouldn't want it.
Ross Perot and Jerry Brown know what they're doing. They have found the moment, at least for now, and an identity. They are candidates whose real political name is none of the above. So what, you may ask, what the heck is going on with this campaign underway? With us now is Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a Democrat of New York State. We've got the primary coming up. Good morning, sir. You look at what's happening, Ross Perot, Jerry Brown suddenly coming to the fore. What does it mean? Is this something fundamental or just a passing political fancy?
I think it means Cold War's over. Half a century of a mobilized state, a national security state, that's behind us. And people, we paid for that. We paid a price for that. And now people would like to know, what do you get for it? And no one is offering them anything. I have one example, if I can, Garrick, about the New York primary. The press has been rough on everybody. Of course, that's New York, the hell of a town. But they have buried the lead.
Which is?
The lead is that a Democratic candidate for president in a New York state has, in effect, proposed to abolish the Social Security system.
Because of the tax. You're talking about Jerry Brown's flat tax proposal.
Jerry Brown's flat tax would end Social Security, and the subject doesn't arise. That suggests...
Well, it would end the Social Security tax. It wouldn't necessarily end Social Security.
Oh, it would. If once you cease to have a contributory pension fund with persons' names on their account, it becomes welfare.
Well, let's go back to the...
No, but the point is, how alienated is an electorate that can see that and say, well, that too, what the hell, what's going on?
Because people are listening to the rhetoric, perhaps, of all the candidates rather than the fine print of their proposals. But that does say something about the mood of voters today.
It does. 8 years ago, that would have been front page every day. The candidates would have talked about nothing else, and either with the editorials, this morning's editorials, or there are 4 papers in New York, 3 are for Clinton, 1 for Tsongas, but this subject doesn't come up as if the last half century is being left behind.
Because it's not coming up in detail the way you say, because people are so upset or so angry, and perhaps we're blinded to a lot, again, of the fine print. Another example of what's happened, we saw in that report, the perks. The White House, the Congress are arguing over perks. You as a U.S. Senator, you're going to have to pay for your gym now. Your Senate dining room isn't going to serve the long hours it served in the past. Do you object to this? Do you feel offended?
Our gym, if it were here in New York City down on Avenue B, I think the health department would have closed it down by now. Bean soup in the Senate is fine, and as long as it's on the menu, we're happy.
But how do you feel? How do you and the other members of Congress feel? Because the public now in its wrath is telling you, Senator Moynihan, I think you should get by with less. You've been a privileged person too long.
Well, I don't disagree. I think we should pay for our own Tylenol. That's what about comes to, but why not?
Why not?
You know, and be clear about it and open and straightforward.
That's where we are right now. We're going to continue in just a second. We want to look at the press. We're going to get some of my journalistic colleagues in here, ask you to stay by and give some of your opinions. I'm sure you have some as to how we are covering you and the politicians. We'll be right back as we continue.
Did you help Jennifer Flowers get a job with the state? We can't verify any of the other statements. The only thing we do know is that she got a $17,000
let me tell you what I know about
the state. Is there anything to that?
At BASF, we don't make the plane. We make it lighter. We don't make the lotion. We make it smoother. We don't make the dress, we make it brighter. We don't make the carpet, we make it tougher. At BASF, we don't make a lot of the products you buy, we make a lot of the products you buy better. BASF.
Everyone has a dream, a vision deep inside.
With all the mutual funds out there, I needed an easy way to help me compare them.
We make it easier to follow your own lead.
With Schwab's free mutual funds performance guide, I can compare track records on over 500 funds.
Always there to give you just the help you need.
Help yourself at Schwab today.
Dateline, the National Weather Service, the source for your local forecast. A radar system behind the times.
Manufactured in 1957.
Often when killer storms lurk, America's in the dark.
People are dying every year.
No detection, no warning.
My kids are growing up without a dad.
Jane Pauley, Stone Phillips, a stunning Dateline NBC, Tuesday.
Let's say this is one of those typically beautiful tourism commercials. And seeing it, you wanted to do this. You probably couldn't find this place. After all, you're not from here. But when you come to Minnesota this summer, we'll help you find exactly the vacation you want. So if you want to be here, do some of this, or maybe see this, you should come here.
Need some ideas for your vacation? Get the Minnesota Explorer. It's free, and it's full of things to see and do all over the state. It'll also help you contact our travel counselors and other people who will help you find the getaway you want. Whatever it is, call 1-800-235-5500 for the free Minnesota Explorer.
The difference is you. Call the Volunteer Connection today.
We're talking about politics, particularly the New York State primary. This is an unusual town and a state, the atmosphere, and we want to take a minute and just show you some excerpts of what it means, what it requires to run for president here.
New York, New York. You bridle when people call you Slick Willie.
And didn't inhale and never tried it again.
I want to wake up.
Let me tell you something else.
Governor, I was told that you would come here prepared to talk about your character.
We're going to sit here a long time in silence, Phil.
You pardon all drug dealers or just the ones that contribute to your campaign?
No one ever said it would be easy. Senator Moynihan here is now being joined by two of our journalistic colleagues. There's on the left Chuck Sweeney from Rockford, Illinois, the Rockford Register-Star reporter and columnist on politics, and Mike McAlary of the New York Post. Gentlemen, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Chuck, let's start with you. Illinois. Rockford has been sort of our town. We're following the mood there. We've been out there several times. How do you see the way the press has been covering this?
Well, the people in the average community for the Today Show don't much like the campaign, but I don't think they're always blaming the press. They're blaming the candidates mostly. From the people that I've talked to, they're not too excited about anybody. A few people have blamed us, the press, for sensationalizing certain aspects, especially on Clinton, but they really like to see some better candidates out there.
Mike, there's a perception at large in the land that the New York toughs have been ganging up on Clinton and giving Bush and Brown a free ride. Do you agree with that?
I couldn't disagree more. If there is such a thing as the New York toughs, I guess I'd be one of the toughest. But this is the minor leagues. This is AAA compared to what the Republicans will do to Bill Clinton. And now even Hillary Clinton, with her remarks about George Bush and his possible affairs, all along they've been attacking the tabloids, and frankly I don't know why Hillary's fighting the Star now. She could work for the Star with her remarks. I mean, she went with a lot less than we ever have.
In a way, someone might say you prove the case. Now, you are columnists as well as reporters, and people read what you're saying. One of the things you said, Mike, in your column is that my stated purpose in this primary season is to run Bill Clinton back to a segregated golf course in Arkansas. So we know where you stand.
Yeah, there's no middle ground.
But is that what even columnists should be doing in something like this?
Oh, absolutely. Show me objective column. I'll show you a column I shouldn't have written.
How about you, Chuck?
Well, I don't agree. This is a very serious year. We're at the end of the Cold War. People are looking for leadership. They are calling me and sharing their concerns with me. I think we've got to be much more serious about this whole process than just coming out with outrageous statements about sending people back to country clubs. I mean, that's That's Bush League stuff.
Well, that's not outrageous at all. And you just said that people in the Midwest have decided that these aren't the candidates we want. And I think that when you're a columnist, you have a duty to people come to you expecting to find opinions and expecting to find viewpoint. And if you're milk toast on the whole thing, I think you failed them.
No, I don't think you're milk toast, but I think you've got to raise the level of the playing field a little bit so that people can start to understand some very serious things going on in this country.
Well, let's talk about substance. Senator Moynihan, right before you came on, suggested that the New York press had buried the lead on the story. Is the way you cover politics, what we focus on, does that make the candidates get more negative if we ignore substance?
I think that substance has certainly been in the papers. The New York electorate is the smartest just because they have the most information. They've read more words, they see more videotape, and in defense of what's happened here, with all due respect to the senator, who is my senator, I think the Social Security thing is a bit of a non sequitur in an insane campaign. Jerry Brown has no intention of turning Social Security into a welfare state. The problem with Jerry Brown is he doesn't, think things out. His biggest problem may be that he never exhaled. I mean, if Bill Clinton's as good as he inhaled.
Chuck, you'll want to take a verbal exception, maybe have a verbal poke at Mike in just a second, and your different views of approaching this story. But senators, come back in here, weigh in here. Now, you're a elected public official. You take it from the press all the time. How do you see what these guys and people like them are doing in this campaign?
I think they're reporting it, and when I said about burying the lead, all I meant was that 8 years ago, 20 years ago, proposal, in effect, and Mike, it would end Social Security. I'm chairman of that subcommittee. I know this subject. I know nothing else. That would have been issue number one. The fact that it isn't issue number one says you've got an electorate out there that is thinking very differently than it has done the last half century. And it shows up in none of the above, and it shows up in the editorials. Mike's paper was rough on Clinton, sure, but it endorsed him.
But Chuck here from Rockford, Illinois, is saying, hey, people really want to know the issues. Do you think they really want the substance, or do they like the theater, the spectacle of it?
Well, New Yorkers like a little theater. That's why we have Broadway. That's where it is, here in New York. Now, in Rockford, they got many good things, but you don't have Broadway.
But you got Rockford, Chuck. Follow up on that.
Chuck, let's go all the way back to what Mike was saying, that New Yorkers are intelligent voters because they have all these newspapers and such a wealth of information. And you shook your head violently.
Not that they're any worse than anybody else, but I don't think they're any better.
Is it because people don't know how to use the media? Heaven knows there have been megatons of reporting.
Look, I don't think the coverage is the main problem. I think the main problem is we've got a new age of post-Cold War politics where we really haven't begun to understand what the next 10 years is going to be like. And our people running for office don't understand that yet. They're still running on the old platforms, the old Cold War tickets.
But now give New York credit.
I love New York.
Governor Clinton went to the Foreign Policy Association here in town, a few blocks away, gave a speech, mentioned aid to the Soviet Union, and in 24 hours, the President of the United States had put together $24 billion without telling any of the people like the Japanese who were going to have to put it up. But he responded.
At some point,
somebody in the White House read what was reported.
All right, but the President was also going to come along with the plan at some point anyway on the aid to Russia. Final thing, Mike, do you think New York has been getting the bum rap because of the spectacle, the theater that's been
Well, the tabloids have been around for 100 years in New York, and I think Bill Clinton, when he says he's running against the tabloids, has made a mistake. New Yorkers don't think of them as the tabloids. New Yorkers think of them as their hometown newspapers. And you're running against something that they believed in for all the time and followed and trusted.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much, Senator, and gentlemen, thank you very much for your views from Illinois, from New York City. And I think the candidates, Bill Clinton, Jerry Brown, and the others will be very happy when they can leave New York State come Tuesday night.
We'll be happy when they leave, too.
We'll be right back.
Imagine your refrigerator with bigger door shelves for bigger bottles, with leftovers left in quick-serve trays for leftover space, more space, nearly 27 cubic feet, and a door in the door for things you use more. Imagine GE's Space Center 27. All cars are made with sheets of metal. But one of these sheets is actually a sandwich of steel, resin, and steel used by Lexus to help quiet the cabin of the LS 400. Care to guess which one?
Most likely today, you won't need the services of McLaren's Funeral Chapel in West Des Moines. And isn't that nice? More stories to listen to, more opportunities to show someone how much you really care. But sadly, these special moments will someday be only memories. At McLaren's Funeral Chapel, we believe when families are treated with respect and compassion, a very hard time can be made a little easier. It's not a job, it's our calling. McLaren's Funeral Chapel in Rest Haven Cemetery, West Des Moines.
Before you choose a body shop to paint your car, ask a few questions. Do they care about the environment as much as your car?
Hi, Mr. Pressman. The Taurus is all set.
Will the work be done at your convenience?
Okay, we'll see you at 1.
Are they preferred by corporations nationwide for dependability and service? What about experience? Have they repaired over 5 million cars? If you don't know, you better get Mako.
For the last 90 minutes, during which we've handled serious matters, Roker's been doing jumping jacks down on the waterfront. Al?
Well, thanks a lot, Al. We got the new number, big after chorus.
Well,
that was the Big Apple chorus, just in case you
all I can
missed
say is
it.
I hope this is having closed captions, or you can lip read Al's lips there. Thanks for being with us. Finally, Casablanca, the movie. We all know it, made 50 years ago. It's coming out for re-release. Also a sad note, Paul Henreid, who played in that movie, died this past week. And we want to remember Casablanca and Paul Henreid and all some of the wonderful moments in that. And so we're going to leave you this morning, once again, going back 50 years to a scene of that wonderful movie. And we'll see you again next Sunday.
Bye-bye.
Created by science.
You're the brains and muscle.
I'm the brains and the muscle.
So am I.
The one that can get killed.
What science couldn't teach her partner can.
I have to take a shower.
Ooh, can I wash?
No.
What if I close my eyes?
Man and Machine.
Tonight at 11:05, only on TV 13.
This is about promises kept. If we promise it gives your skin incredible moisture replenishment.
It will.
If we promise visible smoothing of tiny lines.
It delivers.
If we promise it works like the fluid in young skin, so when it smooths on.
It sinks in every time.
So skin looks radiantly younger.
It has to.
Without question. Oil of Olay. We keep our promise to young skin. Original and sensitive.
For painful gas, which would you choose? Your antacid or Gas-X, the tablet made for gas? It's extra strength, 100% simethicone to fight gas faster. Faster than your antacid. Fight gas right with Gas-X.
Shower yourself with a new sensation. New refreshing Shield. Feel the blast. The high-energy beat of Shield's unique skin-vigorating formula. Refreshment that'll turn you around. New refreshing Shield.
Stacia Strand and News Center 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day.
Hello again, I'm Tim Russert, and this is Meet the Press, live from New York City. Our issue this Sunday, the New York presidential primary. Our guest, the governor of the Empire State, Mario Cuomo.